Dot, 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 dot. Good morning, everybody. This is Grant from State of the Spark, and we've got a show for you. I am actually super excited. We're going to be unpacking a 1,955-year-old gift to you. And that gift is a piece of understanding that few, if any, have been talking about in the last 1,900 years. And you're going to hear it here first. And I'm super pumped about that. We're going to be covering that. And it's how to live a poetic life. It's how to live a more full, a more robust life. We're going to cover that this morning. We're also going to be covering other news. We're going to be talking about how a bunch of dead German trees ended up as beautifully sculpted waves. We're going to be covering how an interesting study is showing you how you have a 25% lower chance of getting depression. But before all of that, we're covering a cup of gratitude. Now, this morning's cup of gratitude is my water cup. Why? Because I was down to the wire on writing this thing. And I wanted to start a little early because there's some context for this linguistic 1,900-year-old gift that I want to give to you. And it was a gift given to me. I can't claim original thought here. I want to share it with you because it was shared with me yesterday, and I did my own homework, and I was blown away by what I found. So I'm going to share that with you. But my morning cup of gratitude is water. I don't have my coffee with me to share a cup of gratitude because I was down to the wire writing this thing. But it doesn't matter. We're going to be grateful with one another. We're going to chat a little bit here. So let's actually start our day with a morning cup of gratitude. I want to hear in your comments. If you're checking in from YouTube, if you're checking in from Facebook, I want to hear what you're absolutely most grateful for today. What are you grateful for? Are you starting your day wound up? Are you starting your day frustrated? Take a deep breath, let it out, and reset by starting with a cup of gratitude. What are you grateful for today? I'll start. I am grateful for this haphazard band of goofy people that have been in my life for years. Specifically, I'm thinking about the relationship, and I'll share this. I connected with a friend, more than a friend, someone that's been family with me. He and his wife have been family with me and his daughters for years. And yesterday we actually called and spoke about their website because, of course, we manage their website. But I am telling you, we got into some material that led to today's show that's mind-blowing. So I am grateful for those people, and I'll share their information below when we talk down in the lesson today about this 1,900-year-old gift that so few people have ever even seen or heard of, but we're going to talk about it on how to live a fuller life. I'm grateful for that today, for the people like this. And my life is full. I mean, all the people in my life are weird and unique and stand alone. The people like Bud Hallowell, Sheila Hallowell, Derek Smith, Jill Smith. I mean, I could just list extraordinary people. I had lunch with Adam Welch yesterday, an extraordinary individual who I have a massive amount of respect for. I got to spend the weekend with Jamie and Natalia Clemens on their own journey. Awesome people. I am grateful this morning. My morning cup of gratitude, I wish it were coffee, but it's not. My morning cup of gratitude this morning is for the unique, interesting, bizarro individuals in my life that have made such an impact and keep depositing nuggets on me. And Roop Patel jumps in and says, hey, yo, he's grateful for good food and art. Hey, man, Root, we've got a good one on art today that we're going to cover that. The photos are phenomenal. We're going to cover that. I also like good food and art. But boy, howdy, y'all need to hold me accountable. You guys got to hold me accountable to not eat too much good food. But that's what I'm grateful for this morning. Root's grateful for good food and art. What are you grateful for? I'm actually going to write it out. Grateful for the unique, interesting, and intellectual friends in my life who challenged me and even offered up the message for today. So we're going to cover that. So that's what I'm grateful for. If you're catching this later, please comment. I don't care if you're seeing this at 4 p.m. Tell me what you're grateful for. And before we get going with the rest of the show, I'm telling you, if you have a friend or family or person that you care about and you want them to have just a little nugget on how they could live a more full, more vibrant, more free, poetic life. I've got some words of encouragement today. Share this with them, like them and tag them in the comments, share the video. Our show spreads because you love somebody and want to share a positive message with them. So I appreciate it. Let's talk about other news. News that has nothing to do with what mainstream media wants you to think about. News that has everything to do with you being a spark citizen of the world, someone who's smarter, more intelligent at the water cooler, something that's uplifting. Let's talk about other news. And our first piece of other news, giving new life to dead German trees. Let's talk about waves of wooden sculptures. So there have been there is an artist, a German artist, by the name of Georg Glascher. I'm butchering this guy's name. Don't give me no heat. Like this guy's name, like it's either Georg or George, or in Spanish, Jorge Glascher. He's a German photographer and artist. And during the pandemic, he started an entire installation piece called "This Is Not Happiness." And of course, a lot of artists had to, express themselves during the pandemic in a variety of ways. This particular artist went to a secluded location near his home in Hamburg and began to gather dead wood trees from the forest. What he then began to do is actually construct 9 massive wave sculptures with dead trees and dead twigs. Some of them were undulating water-like structures when he took the photo. Some were cresting waves. There was even an awesome tube in one of them. Yes, a surf tube. For those of us who surf, and I took Jamie surfing at our Vision retreat last week, a tube of dead wood trees, and he took these photos. It truly captures flow, definitely. And I think that the artist was trying to actually look at something that was stagnant and dead and give new life to it. In fact, Georg Glascher, the artist himself, says this. He says, "I was working with the idea of pure power of nature, the all-destroying force which brings one of the richest countries in the world to a complete standstill." Talking about his own country, Germany, but it could apply to any of our countries. He goes on to say, "A wave is a periodic oscillation or a unique disturbance in the state of a system." Now, I love this quote. A wave is a periodic oscillation. That's a great sentence. Or a unique disturbance of a system. Now, I love this because actually the gift I'm going to give you in our story today, our lesson, the gift I'm going to give you, I hope, is a wave. I hope it's a periodic oscillation or a unique disturbance to the state of your system based on how you think about words. So this particular artist's story was phenomenal. Now, I'm going to share 2 links for this story. The first link I'm going to share, boom, is the link to the actual article, as I am often doing, because I want to make sure that you have access. Let's see if it comes up there. Let's see here. I want to make sure that you can see the thumbnails of this work because the art is just absolutely phenomenal. So let's make sure that comes up. And then the next thing I want to share with you is his Instagram feed, because the Instagram feed has the exact, boom, there's the link there. There's the link there. The Instagram feed has just the photos. If you want to skip the article and just see the photos or the thumbnails of the photos, you have them there in the comments. I think it's phenomenal. And there he goes. In the thumbnails right there, you can see an awesome crested wave made out of wood in the middle of the forest. It's stunning. And hey, Marissa, I think I found your tattoo, love. I keep trying to convince Marissa to have a tattoo, and she won't do it. It's got to be something profound. But this has waves and forest all at once. So that's our first piece of other news. Deadwood in Germany gets a brand new life. Let's talk about how you can reduce your chance of depression by 25%. So yes, a study of more than 800,000 people. 800,000 people is not a small study. That is a powerful study. In fact, if you look at many of the studies, when someone says, oh, recent studies, these are often studies of less than 2,000 people. This particular study is a study of 800,000 people. And the study was how going to bed and waking up 1 hour earlier. There you heard it. If you hang up today and go to work, and this is all you hear, if you go to bed and wake up 1 hour earlier, if you shift your schedule 1 hour, you have a 23% chance or a 23% less chance of getting depressed. They said that early risers are in general 27% less likely to develop depression symptoms. Now, the researchers were honest. They said, we're not exactly sure the cause of this phenomenon, but of 800,000 people, the factor between all of those who experienced less depression, they, on average, went to bed and woke up an hour earlier than their counterparts who were experiencing depression. Now, quite often, one of the potential causes of this, they said, was that the societal benefits are there and set up for morning people, even though most people consider themselves night people. In fact, of the 800,000 people polled, they all did an entry survey, and most of them said, no, I'm more creative at night. But the research actually showed, A, you're not, and B, you're experiencing depression. So anyone who says they're a night owl, statistically, we call BS on this. Statistically, we say there's something else going on if you're up in the night. You're not in control of your life. You're feeling anxiety. Something else is going on. But on average, you can improve this by simply shifting your schedule an hour. So here's the article so that you know I'm not making this up. Boom. There's the article right there. You can actually read this for yourself and then follow the links to the research further so that you actually can see that, hey, experiment. I heard of an author in Japan in the early 1900s who had benefactors. So he knew he had to hang out with the benefactors and they would always socialize and always drink. And he was frustrated because when he was on their schedule, he couldn't actually do the writing that his patrons expected of him. So he shifted his schedule. He woke up at 2 p.m., went to the gym, did martial arts at 2 p.m., and then started hanging out with folks around dinner time, and they would often party late into the evening. He would actually limit his drinks. And so about midnight, they would all be crashed and go to sleep, and then he would actually go to work and start writing. And he would write till about 5 or 6 in the morning, at which point he would go to bed and then sleep about 2 in the afternoon. And he produced many great works. It was one approach of shifting your schedule to experience more fulfillment in life. And that leads us to our story. In our message today, we are wrapping up other news, and we're going to talk about a rather dramatic paradigm shift and a 1900-year-old gift I'm about to give you and unwrap. And I say this because few people have seen what I'm about to show you and unpack for you so that you can utilize this tool to a new level to live a fuller, more poetic life, because that's what we're all after. That's what Igniting Lives of Explosive Significance is all about. That's why you check in with the show, whether it's now or later in the day. You do it because you're looking for an answer to live a happier, more fulfilled, more free life. Let's talk about that in today's show. So I want to preface this with a little context. You see, actually, a jealous brother once wrote a line of poetry that carried through time to deposit on us a very important secret to living a fulfilled life. And for the first time in centuries, we're going to actually unpack this today. You see, this jealous brother, what went on in his life to shift from being a jealous brother to writing poetry that influenced the globe and still influences the globe today? Now, this jealous brother, he had a popular brother. He was jealous of his other brother. And his other brother was kind of popular. All the government leaders knew him. All the celebrities knew him. People from around the world knew him. And the popular brother's message was often quoted, often tweeted, often shared, often in tidbits, was influencing the cultural zeitgeist of today. But it was generally a message of Zen, peace, idealism, and in general living a fulfilled life, living freedom from what other people were telling the public to do. You see, the jealous brother seethed about this. Well, because, when these two were running around the planet, it was common for family to take care of family. And the popular brother was getting so popular that he was neglecting his responsibilities with the family. And the jealous brother, obviously, it was causing a lot of turmoil for his community and for his city, but really for his family. Now, jump forward a few years, and the popular brother died like anybody, well before his time. A lot of the people I think of are like Kurt Cobain, died well before his time. The Doors died well before his time, as they do. And popular people are popular for a reason, because something does resonate with people. Well, the popular brother passed. And not long after, the older brother, the jealous brother, started looking at the impact the popular brother had. He started to look around and survey his community, and even though there was a lot of turmoil that the jealous brother saw, the net effect in the individual lives was huge. The net effect in his sisters and his community, he started seeing his brother's message in a new light. His brother lived a full life, but it was short. But his sisters, his siblings, his brother's friends, the community, they all were living a more full and more rich experience, even though they were being oppressed. He continued to see this impact and decided that he was going to actually make a massive shift. And he began shifting over the years, over the decades, from being a critic of his brother to actually being his hype beast. He started spreading his message, and he started becoming a massive influence in the very people that his brother had served while he was alive. Now, he started also doing his own tweets, his own messages, his own letters, and these themselves were beginning to be taken out of context. But among their fan base, among their people, his own work became so influential, he became known as the Just. Because he had a good level head about him. He could take what his popular brother that he originally was jealous at and re-spin things a little bit so that they were palatable and usable and fair and not so browbeating. His message spread, and he continued the movement. And based on what originally was a jealous brother, the now participating living brother spread the message further. But ultimately, some of the writings and teachings of this brother were also taken out of context and also abused. You see, what began as a movement of freedom with the popular brother and then the jealous brother who became the supporter, their entire movement was based on freedom of heart, freedom of mind, kind of a Zen Gnosticism, if you will. But as their followers grew, long after they had passed and long after they had written words of encouragement, their own followers became the establishment themselves. You see, the establishment was trying to keep them down originally because you can't have too free of a people. If your people are too free, they're going to start living life on their own terms. They're going to start feeling alive. They're going to start doing things unpredictably. And isn't that what you want in your own life? Like, the mundane and the monotony really do get to us. We want to live a free life. We want to live an Insta life. We want to travel. We want to freaking live on TikTok. Dude, tell me about it. I want to live in a hammock and drink Mai Tais on the beach and just skim TikTok all day or make my own, man. I'm telling you. The establishment doesn't want me to do that. The establishment wants me to get a job. And we all know that college is kind of going to the wayside, but the establishment would still like me to go get a degree and get a college, really get college debt is what they want me to do. They want me to go buy a brand new car and get that consumer debt. They want me to buy property at the top of the housing market. They want me to buy high and sell low instead of buy low and sell high. They want me to wear the latest fashion. They want me to dress like Kim Kardashian. They want me to dress like LeBron. This establishment wanted similar things or parallel things for this movement that began that was focused on freedom. But the followers, even though they started with a solid message of freedom, the followers of this movement themselves became their own establishment. They stopped living as poets of their own life and instead began to focus on the writings and teachings as dogma and doctrine. They were hearing the message, but they were interpreting it as making sure that others heard the message and interpreted it the way they should, instead of letting the original message change, uplift, and enlighten them. They let the message bind those that heard it. Now, if you haven't guessed, we are talking in a new way, if you stick with me, about James the Just. Now, James the Just, not many people have heard of unless they've been raised in Christian church. But James the Just is traditionally the person attributed to being Jesus's brother. And Jesus didn't have a message of doctrine. Jesus, like Buddha, had a message of freedom. It wasn't a message of doctrine or dogma or rules. It was a message that you're free from doctrine, dogma, or rules, and you can live free in your heart and free in your mind. James the Just, his brother, was not so just when it started. He was jealous. James the Jealous. He was jealous and angry at his brother. But after his brother passed before his time, James the Just started realizing there is a freedom from legalism, a freedom from oppressors. Viktor Frankl often explored this same freedom in Man's Search for Meaning, when Viktor Frankl, a Jew, actually explored the idea that he was freer than his Nazi captors. This is the type of freedom that Jesus and his brother, James, no longer the jealous, James the Just, wrote about. And James the Just was so moved by this message of freedom, and he saw that his people, 30 years after his brother died, around 65 AD, was really bothered by the fact that these followers that his brother had given his life for were now turning their own message of freedom into their own form of oppression, into doctrine and dogma. So he started writing letters. And you might be familiar with the letter that he's attributed with. The book of James is attributed to James the Just. Now, that is contended for my theologians who want to debate me, fine. But traditionally, James the Just is attributed with having written the book of James. Now, the words of James the Just, if you don't know anything about Christianity, that's cool, but you're going to know the words I'm going to say because they're some of the most popular words. You see, the followers of Jesus who had begun living a life of hearing what others were saying. You know, like I said, the Kardashians, Gary Vee, you watch Instagram, you watch LeBron James, you watch Joel Osteen, who's preaching that life is a certain way. You watch all the talking heads on TV or Instagram, and you realize they all want you to live like them. It's got to be this way or the highway. We've become consumers of others' words. And similarly, the followers of the freedom movement and had just become consumers. And by consumers, I mean they become hearers. They hear the word. They hear what's going on, right? And then they tell others to hear the word and interpret it. But lost in this is a phrase that I'm going to say, and your religiosity hairs are going to stand up on the back of your neck, and I want you to not bail. I want you to stick it out because this is what we're going to unpack. You've probably heard a scripture that says, but whoever looks into the perfect law, the law of freedom. You see, a lot of people at the time, Jews, but also the Romans. In fact, every culture at some point or another gets obsessed with its laws, how things should be. We saw this during the pandemic, the tug of war against masks or no masks, and what is the law? And we obsess about the letter of the law. It's a tendency for us to do this. And for those who believe Christianity has evolved legitimately into being legalist, you are not wrong. Christianity has at large evolved into being a religion of rules and laws, not unlike the Catholic Church. It claims, Protestant Christianity claims to have escaped, not unlike literal Judaism, which is following the letter of the law. So when Jesus, in a movement of freedom, is like, we can be free from this, he wasn't trying to like destroy Judaism or the Roman Empire. He was using these as psychological leverage to communicate a concept to you and me that Buddha was trying to communicate, that so many people like that were trying to communicate, that many avatars were trying to communicate. And that was, whoever wants to look at the best law, and this is from James 1:25, whoever looks into the perfect law, the best law, that's the law of freedom, bros. And whoever wants to continue in the law of freedom, the law in your heart, do not be a consumer of these words only. Do not be a hearer, but be a doer of the work. Not the words, be a doer of the work. This person shall be blessed. Now, for those of you who are tempted, like, wait, this dude's lecturing me. Now, check this out. This is what we're going to unpack. This is my 1,955-year-old gift to you. We've often heard this thrown at us, whether you're in the church or not. You've heard, be not a hearer only, but a doer. Don't only be a hearer of my words, but be a doer. And we think that this phrase means we should hear what I'm saying and interpret it and understand it and then go out and do it. When we apply this to business, and this is not just a Christian thing, I've heard this said in business circles, be a hearer and a doer. Well, that means if you hear this great tip on how to invest in stocks, don't just listen, take action. This is the wrong interpretation. And this interpretation has been wrong for almost 2,000 years. There's poetry here. One of the friends I was talking about that I was grateful for is Terry Crews. When I opened with a morning cup of gratitude, Terry Crews, I got to hand it to this guy. Terry Crews and I have not always seen eye to eye on Christianity. In fact, we probably debate a lot about Christianity at this moment, and we wouldn't agree. But I had the blessing of talking to Terry and Donna both, he and his wife, who have made a huge impact in my life. And we were talking yesterday about a website, and we were talking about how so many people, any religion, talk about having a new message, a fresh message. And we were joking about something I had heard recently that was not fresh, but they claimed it would be fresh. And they started it with, I've been teaching this for 30 years. It's not fresh if you've been teaching it for 30 years. Just FYI. And Terry said, I got to tell you something, man. I said, what? He said, I turned to James 1:25. Whoever looks into a good law, a best law, the perfect law, it's the law of freedom. And the law of freedom, if you want to continue in it, do not be a hearer only, but be a doer. He said, do you know that the word doer, here's your unpacking. This is not mine. This is from Terry Crews. Do you know that the word doer means poet? Pause on this. I want you to stop right here. Do you know that in this ancient text, this Confucianist saying, this Zen koan, this small tidbit, don't be a hearer, but be a doer, actually is interpreted. Here you go. I'm going to say it. Don't be a hearer only, but a poet of the work. Don't be a hearer only, but be a creator of the work. Don't be a consumer of what the voices in society are telling you. Instead, be a poet of your own life. We've heard the phrase, don't be a hearer, be a doer. Be a hearer and a doer. And we know that this is a Christian legalist saying about don't just listen to scripture, go out and preach the gospel. It's not saying that at all. In fact, James was fighting that. James was saying something else entirely. James the Just was trying to get people, stop following the way people are telling you to live. Instead, become a poet of your own life. The ancient Greek for the word doer is poetes. Poetes. Poietes. Poetes. This word is actually the same Greek word that the ancient Greeks used to talk about poets. It's also the same Greek word that they used when they talked about creators and authors. When they talked about someone being an originator of something, they would call them poetes. So when I call you a poet, you are a creator of words. You write concepts. I recently heard someone say, artists and poets do not tell us the way things should be. They paint a picture on the way things could be. If that's not a true use of the prophetic, I don't know what is. The best way to be a good prophetic voice in the world, and I don't mean Christian prophet, I mean a seer, I mean a shaman, I mean a soothsayer. The best way is not to be a fortune teller, but to help paint a picture of words, of art, of writing, of your own work. Paint a picture of what could be. Be a storyteller. That's what it means. And that story should be crafted for the betterment of society. And it might be a parable. It might be a watch story like Aesop's fables. It might be a hype beast where you're pumping your buddy up. But make sure the stories you tell, the poetry, the things you write and the art you craft and the business you make sure it's for the betterment of people. The thing we're unpacking, the 1900-year-old package that I am giving you, is that Terry dropped this on me and I did my homework, and I have never found in a 2,000-year history of Christian writing, and I mean Christian mystics, I have never seen anyone interpret the word doer before as being a poet of the work of being alive. James, in his old age, had seen a lot, and he saw that his brother wrote and crafted a unique way of living. Now, obviously, his brother died early. And obviously, sometimes people want to live a long life. But I think you and I, when we think about the Instagram life, you and I, when we think about the fullest life, the freest life, we don't often picture a long life. We don't picture ourselves with wrinkles and rickety and sitting in an old armchair. We often picture ourselves running the Great Wall of China, swimming the Great Barrier Reef, and we usually picture ourselves viral and strong. We don't picture a long life. We picture a full and free life. I present for your consideration at least this particular person who considered himself a mystic Christian. James the Just was writing people and telling them, quit listening to what people are telling you should do and go be a poet of the work of living. And I've got scripture to back that up for my theological friends who are like, ah! For those of my friends who are mystics who, like me, read so many different spiritual texts. We could correlate this to other Confucius sayings, to other Bushido sayings. Bushido is big on not being focused on living a long life, but living a full one. Do not value your life, rush headlong into the fray. A Bushido saying, don't be a hearer of what we were saying. Don't be a consumer of what Kardashians are doing or LeBron is doing or Gary Vee is doing or what Grant's doing. Don't be a consumer and skim my feed and say, oh, if we could just live on the beach or have beach investments or have a training company or have a website company or have good partners. Don't just be a consumer of those ideas. My goal is that I say something that inspires you, that connects with you so that you go out and be a doer. Be a poetus, the Greek word, to be a poet of the work of living. I highly encourage you today, don't block out the writings of the ancients, any ancients, because chances are when they wrote it, they weren't twisted by the institution and the establishments who spin words to oppress you. Chances are they were written by someone at the time who was a weirdo, a mystic, someone who was free in their heart and could say what was ever on their mind, and they were trying to defy what the mainstream was telling you to do with your life. Become a poet of the work. That's what I have for you today. Listen, check this out. If you need any support, please do check us out at stateofthespark.com. Our book should be coming out soon. We still have a few steps to do, but the book is coming out. There we'll be putting courses and tools and training. If you want to continue conversations like these, this is the type of stuff we talk about at the Goals and Gratitude group. But no matter what you do today, folks, remember the mission: igniting lives of explicit significance. Have a great day.